Hello everyone, welcome back to another Realm of the Mad God video. My name is TS Page, and with Oryx 3 looming in the near future, I figured it'd be a great time to make a guide going over all of the Oryx 2 phases and how to survive them. So on screen right now, you'll see a timeline of the fight, and once you begin, you're going to enter Oryx's boss room, and you'll see a phase where it's just a bunch of tiny little stars that shoot out and do heaps of damage, some confusing, quiet, as well as other crappy status effects to deal with. So once this phase is completed, you're going to be hit with a random selection of one of 4 phases that is shown on screen right now. You have suns, or giant glowing suns, whatever you want to call them. It's pretty recognizable. You have Oryx dance phase, you have the Daze rotation phase, and then lastly you have slow phase. And then once you've completed one of these randomly selected phases, you'll then be tasked with completing another one of these randomly selected phases. You cannot have the same phase twice. If you just did it, you will not have it again. And then you make it to the end of the fight, which is essentially just another rainbow phase, but this time it adds in quiets and weekends, which I'll explain later. If you are struggling with a certain phase, I will go down in the comments below. I'll pin timestamps to each of the phases, and it'll be on screen right now. So with this timeline, you can kind of think of it as 3 stages to the fight. You have the intro, you have 2 middle phases, and then you have the ending. So the intro, you've got rainbow phase, you've got the 2 randomly selected middle phases, followed by the final phase. So if you're a new player, just trying to figure out how to do Oryx 2, or if you're a returning player and you're like, what the heck, Oryx 2 changed? Then this is what you're getting yourself into. So once you've rushed the wine cellar, you're going to enter the Oryx 2 boss fight room, and you'll be met with quite a few minions still surrounding Oryx because no one else is there yet, and Oryx respawns minions during this first phase. So while you're doing this first phase, you can either go for damage directly on Oryx, or you can focus on minions to start out the battle. If there's minions still alive, make sure you watch out for the blue star-shaped projectiles. These things will confuse you, and if you're rotating the wrong way, you can run straight into Oryx and eat a insta-pop death that you'll basically have no time to react to. So as you can see on screen right now, I get confused rotating around Oryx. This is why I always rotate going clockwise. If you get hit by a confused shot from either the minion or the blue confused shot from Oryx himself, you will be rotating away from the boss rather than towards him. And if you're a range class, this phase is actually pretty trivial and not hard at all. You can pretty much stay around 7-8 tiles depending on the class away and just shoot away from range, dodging whenever projectiles come at you from whatever melee or trickster is taking care of the boss at the time. With that little thing being said, I want to go into 2 little tips here. If you are a knight, you can stun during this phase, and it's pretty simple. Just do your clockwise rotation. If you get confused, you'll back out. If you get the stun, then you can chain stun as long as you can, then back out until you can't anymore. If you're a trickster, go ahead, slap some decoys near the boss, and you almost have a knight stun, just making all the shots shoot away from the rest of the group, and it's really, really effective, and it really lets the trickster shine during this phase. But that's about the only phase the trickster shines. So now that you have about all you would need to know for that first phase, which is easily the most simple of all the phases, now we can jump into some of the harder phases. So the first one I'll be going over, as you can see on screen here soon, is the sun phase. So the sun phase I'll go over for melees first. If you're a melee, you want to go in and get relatively close to Oryx. This way you're farther away from the actual explosions of these suns themselves. Once these suns travel around 10 blocks or 10 tiles away from Oryx, that's when they are going to explode into 6 armor-piercing yellow shots that you can see just blowing up all around screen. By being close to Oryx, you actually have a better chance of dodging them because they're going to be more spread by the time you reach Oryx or they reach you. So, as you can see, I'm pushed in here pretty deep. I use some health potions, I back out. It's one of those phases where you're eventually going to get hit because you're dealing with such a tight radius and so many shots. The main thing you want to watch out for, though, is when you're backing out, don't sit on an exploding sun or you will take 600 damage guaranteed. And that is not a great recipe to survive, because if you're backing out, you're most likely backing out because, well, you're already taking too much damage. Luckily though, if you're taking damage from this phase, it's really, really consistent. You can tell when you're going to get hit, you're going to tell how much your health is going to drop, because everything does the exact same amount of damage, so it's relatively easy to judge when you need to back out. Above you can see me pretending to be a melee. Basically I just stay relatively close to the outside, getting within range for a couple shots, and then backing back out. and repeating that process as my health allows. It's really simple on a range class, just don't eat a full sun and you'll be fine. So this next phase is actually kind of probably the scariest one to get focused on by. Right now you can see me kind of taking the role of a ranged class. If I were a ranged class, I would just be running near Oryx or just barely within range, letting one of the other people closer just kind of take care of him and drag him around the room. So ranges, yet again, you get another really easy phase for Oryx too. It's like I'm seeing a trend here. Don't worry, it won't last for long. So during this phase, as a melee, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to kite Oryx around the room, making sure not to get pinned in between him and the wall. As you can see here, this is a pally that is forced to drag Oryx around the room the whole time, and as you can see, as he gets pinched in between the wall there, he actually kites Oryx back towards the middle of the room, and with that, we are able to push him with our pretty decent damage, and just take care of him before he has to turn again, which is a very, very good handling of Oryx. Also, a PSA for anyone who gets pinched in between him and the wall, just Nexus. You're gonna die. It's not worth it. Next up though, we have the notorious Oryx dance phase. Now this phase is actually one of my personal favorites, and what happens is Oryx will spawn a ring of 8 rotating area of effect projectiles, I guess you could call them, that do a crap ton of damage and force you to stay close to him in order to get damage on anything that's not a long-ranged ability. The one bit of leniency this phase does give is there is one opening in the rotating ring of AoE particles or AoE projectiles, in that you can just go ahead, get in or get out relatively safely without taking a crap ton of damage for trying to go in or leave the circle. Now, once you're inside of the circling AoE projectiles, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to avoid the red grenades that Oryx will shoot out in all directions, while also avoiding the quiets. Your first priority is going to be dodging the grenades. If you look on screen right now, you can see I immediately spot the grenade coming towards me and then rotate away while also consciously trying to avoid quiets. Now, when I'm not getting hit by grenades, or at least being targeted by grenades, there's a very simple rhythm you can do in order to dodge these quiets that is also on screen right now. All you gotta do, simply alternate between hitting D and Q and A and D at the same time, and you should easily weave in between all of those quiet shots. You shouldn't expect to do this phase on your first try, but as you feel more comfortable after 1 or 2 Oryx 2 attempts, then you should be pretty comfortable, or if you're a range class, literally just throw your spells, poisons, or quivers, and you'll still qualify for Soulbound. For the last of the phases that you can get randomly during this middle section of the Oryx boss fight, we get the Daze rotation phase. The reason I call it this is because the white shots Daze, and either way you do the battle, you are going to be rotating. The first and most common way to do this fight is by rotating counterclockwise and just running through the area of effect, damaging projectiles. As you can see on screen now, I just run through them, continue to rotate counterclockwise, and continue to run through them, healing in between waves of shots. The second and more optimal way, but slightly harder, is to rotate clockwise in between the Daze shots while avoiding all of the AoE damaging projectiles. So quite simply, slip through the Daze shots and then continue rotating at a pace relatively similar to the damaging projectiles, and you are going to be a-okay taking 0 damage and not getting dazed. Now, once you've completed 2 of those 4 phases, you are going to then once again be faced by the Oryx's Rainbow Barrage. Now, the only difference between this section of the fight and the fight from the very beginning is that you're now having to deal with a ring of weakens shooting out in every direction. These weakens occur every 10 seconds, so if you count to 9 or 10 in your head after the previous wave, you'll do a fine job of dodging these, and if you have a big group with a Puri Priest, then to be honest, you don't have to really worry about this. Just get your heal, go back in for more damage until the boss fight is done. Now, once you've completed that boss fight, congratulations. You now have a chance to get any of the old tops in the game and just, get some decent loot overall. But more importantly, or depending on when you watch this video, you're going to be worried about getting to Oryx 3. Oryx 3, really, really good loot, and apparently, according to Deca, you won't need a raid-style dungeon or server in order to complete Oryx 3 on a regular basis, which I find really, really cool and really, really appealing, just because of the current meta we have with Shatters and Lost Halls being all done by Discords. With that said, that's all I have for this video. If you really enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And if there's more phases or boss fights you'd like me to go over, please let me know in the comments below. If you are really interested in Oryx 3 and doing raids of Oryx 3 whenever it comes out, follow me on Twitch. I will be doing testing of the Oryx 3 boss fight, as well as whenever Oryx 3 comes out, I will be doing runs with my stream. So if you want to come help me out, support me even more than you already do by, liking and subscribing, coming over to my Twitch will mean a lot, and I get to talk to you and be more personable with you and, get direct feedback, which is really, really awesome. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you want to subscribe, it would mean a lot, and that's all I got for this video. I hope to see you around the realm. Have a great day, and peace.